There y'all go. There y'all go. I can see y'all now. Alpha Day, what up, beloved? I can see y'all now. That's a little better. Can y'all hear me? Press one. All right, all right, all right. So, like I was trying to say about the DNA, like I don't understand. Like, how is that gonna tell you who you related to? It's not gonna say shit. It's gonna give you some random shit. If you keep switching your names, you could do it with all the people in your household and you're gonna get different results. Y'all not testing it to the extreme to really say that this shit is bona fide. You're not testing it to the point where you yourself or is a biologist or someone that person you grew up with from the sandbox or something. It sounds really ridiculous, especially if it can't point you to a grave. You at least need to have a grave so that you can have some sort of connection to the person that you saying you related to. You can't just be from somewhere and not have some reason for being there. So that doesn't really make any sense. Doesn't make no sense. And also, I'd like to see the pan fries. Perhaps they can produce, the people in Africa on any of the 54 countries that decided to give their DNA as some sort of prototype to a match to people over here. Where's the cross database at? There should be two, shouldn't they? What do they have to compare it to? What do they have to compare it to? This is just basic common sense. I don't have to be all scientific talking about fucking leukocytes and all that, I don't have to get into that to really make sense of some shit that don't make no sense. So where is the cross database of these other people, that are submitting the cotton swab in their family, right? Cotton swabbing their folks, especially for the people over in Europe. What sense do it make for them to do it? Because their records go back so far anyway, right? Even the Europeans that got sold into slavery have documents. Because you better believe that they were getting sold. They broke the law, they would get kicked out, and, it was hang by the neck and die or go to America for a set amount of years. Go to one of the new colonies for a set amount of years. So, I think it's real funny how they try to use like this dumb shit against us. And don't none of them have no Egyptian blood? How come none of them have any Coptic or any type of so-called Middle East? That shit just got built in 1860s. And some of y'all grandfathers got contracts to whoever they was working with, right? But in your mind, it might be that they were slaves. But if you could pretend that maybe the plantation was like a Walmart, all right? And the Walmart is going to open up another store. Something's going to get exchanged. There's going to, like going out of town, right? People go out of town, set up shop, right? Some niggas open up a landscaping business where the weather's nice, and some niggas, get it how they get it how they live it. Some of them was going over there for jobs. They worked on the Panama Canal. Some of them worked on the Erie Canal. They got different jobs. They had the Lighthouse Act where they had to build up all of these lighthouses, right? And you know where they built them at? And predominantly in the places on the coast, on the East Coast. And I find it to be funny because it is saturated with a bunch of American Indians now misclassified as something totally else. Right? Lighthouses. So you got this trail of tears going on, and everybody that didn't move, they fucking suffered. They got labeled black. They got denationalized. I'm telling y'all, there's too much evidence. Okay, so now it's rapidly like there's so many of us that now have been able to go back so far on a genealogy, right? That it's starting to be more and more and more, right? We need y'all to get this shit popping. so we could just really put this shit to bed for everybody. For everybody. There is no doubt. There should not be any doubt. If you have done your genealogy, your due diligence, you're going to find those folks. You're going to find them. And then what you going to do with it when you find it? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? And, like I said, you got to understand that certain states don't get caught up with them borders. See, this is the beautiful thing, because we're always going to be able to find out if they came from Kentucky, if they came from New York, if they came from Rhode Island, if they came from Massachusetts, if they came from Virginia, whatever. See, we can always track that shit down. So I don't know what people are talking about when they're saying, oh, I hit a wall. You hit a wall probably because they have an Indian name. They have an Aboriginal name. Not all of them submitted. Shout out to Chief Strongbow. He submitted a piece of documentation showing, literature showing that a lot of people went down, a lot of other Indians went down to be with the Seminoles. Right? They wasn't no motherfucking from nowhere else. They weren't from anywhere else but America. So you gotta really understand, right? Because I don't want to be too aggressive, and this ain't to be offensive and everything, but this is some of the, they got work to do too. And at the minute where their shit is interfering with some of the things that we working on, you kind of gotta really put them in their place. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes they don't know their place. So there's things that they can do to help themselves. But it's definitely not going to be minding, feather business. You see? That's not going to work for them. It ain't going to work. So, at the end of the day, what up, beloved? That's not a bad place to be stuck. That's not a bad place to be stuck in the 1400s, Westland. If you go through Family Search, through the National Archives, you'll probably have a lot more success when it comes down to that, to where you get stuck at. And you can still cross-reference that. At that point, just like ask the Mormons to help you. They have all the daggone records. I'm not really sure why they do, but they have all of the records. Not really sure why they do, but that's what they got going on. I don't know how they've been able to be in charge. Hi, Kirk Sarah, Halito, Arawak of the West Indies, Lamar McCall, how you doing, beloved? Genesis American, the ancient one. Oh my goodness, Tennessee, yes, the ancient one. Tennessee was just full of treasure. All the Cherokees you can think of, like they, not just Cherokee, they're Chickasaw. And the Chickasaw went all the way into Ohio and Indiana. All the way out there, you had Vassac and Fox. All of those Illinois tribes, they had their own confederation. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. When you're getting them colonial records, look at some of the churches. Definitely look at the churches. It's going to be a lot of the Catholic churches. They have really, really good spicy meatballs. Like they have like the Quakers take notes and stuff like that too. Check the Quaker meeting minutes. Right? Check the Quaker meeting minutes. Check the Revolutionary War. Check the War of 1812. Don't just limit yourself, and you'll be surprised what their names turn into. They may be Captain such and such, but you didn't know that they were, that's your grandfather. Right? Have no idea. So, and also, you got to have a stomach for this shit, because some of the things you find might not be all that people is expecting. I'm not sure what it is that they seeking, right? In the long run, because it's like you don't know what's gonna turn up, and when it do turn up, you still gotta get right with them ancestors, right? Some of them was killers, some of them had to kill or be killed. Like, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. It was a lot going on, and you get to astro travel, and you get to, you know, it's so vivid. It becomes so vivid. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And you need to experience that. And it's a lot of motherfucking work. It's a lot of work. Oh my goodness. Ohio and Michigan. And Ohio got the nerve. Outside of Cleveland and Columbus, Ohio's kind of racist, kind of prejudiced, right? Not kinda. They're a little prejudiced out there. They stop everything with New York plates out there in Ohio. They pulling that shit over. They pulling everything over with a New York plate in Ohio. That's the whole fact. So, but anyway, you gotta make sure that you penetrate this shit deeply. I got little. I'm gonna do a whole plethora of miscellaneous information. And I'm not gonna categorize it, and make it too easy. It's just going to be a bunch of little interesting spicy meatballs. And I figure if I do it, you'll be able to, you can highlight it if you want to. But at least you'll be able to have some sort of references for a lot of these things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years, especially those of you that listen to us on A4 Radio. Some of y'all still around, and I love y'all. Thank y'all. Y'all have always been so supportive. Um, so like I was saying, y'all gotta also check the county. You gotta check the courthouses. Sometimes they were when they say, like, you have to see where they lived at. It may say courthouse. They have boarding houses too. So don't just think just because you see them in one house and you don't see the rest of the family, they could have been working in that town, right? So now the day that the census, the enumerator comes, uh, they happen to be somewhere else, right? So maybe they was in Chicago when the enumerators came working on the railroad, but they really lived in Georgia, right? So now you see them in the following census in Atlanta. Does that mean that that's not the right person that was over in Chicago working on the railroad? They didn't take the date that's on the census, and this is another problem. The date that is on the census is not the actual date of enumeration. Do you understand? Do you think they just had all of these wars, all this slavery, all this stuff going on, and they had time to go fucking cannonballs flying, and they had time to sit there and knock on everybody's door? How much sense does that make? And you're knocking on everybody's door, asking them to report and all this other stuff. At the same time, everybody just was running around. How many people did they hire? How many people? What are the rosters for the U.S. the U.S. Marshal Service that handles the census? Right? That's who signs their signature. So how come that's a lie when it talks about them being out there on June 1st of 1880? June 1st or April this of whatever time? It can't be true. It can't be accurate. So there are things that they have used to where in your mind you don't think that that's your folks. But please understand they have vagrancy laws, so they couldn't afford to not work. They couldn't afford to not work. If they looked poor, if they couldn't take care of themselves, guess what? Guess where they was going? They was going on that plantation. That's where they was going. So, I don't know one second. Yeah. So what's happening? I wish I had been able to show y'all this screen share. So I'm gonna start dropping some of these links. This is interesting. I came across this today. This is a coroner report. Sometimes when your folks disappear, you have to look at obscure things, and this is just going to be an example of some of those obscure things. I'm in the chat now. I just dropped it down. I just dropped it down. There you go. Okay, so that worked. That's how you do it. Feathers up, Shaklasha. Mario, Halito, Seeker of Truth, Halito, beloved. Yasharoon, Halito. Oh, you're absolutely welcome. Yakoke, Ome, Ancient One. That's right. Them woodlands, and this is something that they don't want to deal with. They have a hard time dealing with the woodland Indians. Why? I don't know, but they act like we're not here. Halito, okay, Seeker of Truth. Please do. I'm with that. The Rhythm Alchemist. Halito. Richard Fortune. Halito. John Doe. What up, baby? How you doing, beloved? Washalina Crumpton. So, y'all want to make sure that y'all don't leave nothing out. Read it anyway. Let me show y'all something. Let me get something else for y'all. Hold on one second. Let me pull this up. I'm going to drop this in the chat. I'm going to drop this in the chat. Un momento. Let's see. This is it. Okay. This is another good link right here. This is plethora of information. It has a lot of information on free people of color. And unless otherwise indicated, they are all going to be American Indians, right? Unless otherwise specifically stated, because it will tell you if somebody's from Ireland. Now there's also people that they say are black, and they are from Scotland, and they are from Ireland. So gotta know what you're talking about. But this link right here, it has a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, people that were kidnapped, held as slaves against their will, purchasing your own family. So you can see in a lot of states where it be like such and such as the slave owner and all that shit. That be your goddamn grandfather. If he don't put everybody to work, then somebody gonna get taken. Right? Because that's what they did. They release your services out. If little boys, now they break a window, they call the cops and all this other stuff and, shit like that. So now, back then, if they did something, they would have to do what? Work. If something was damaged, any property was damaged, any debt that occurred, how would you pay for your debt? How would you pay for your debt? Did they? Anthony Reed, I suppose people would have to find that out. Because who they calling Native Americans? In that aspect, at the point where slaves were held. And you see a whole bunch of our people that got the land. So did they have their family? They still got moved from here, but they went to go take the payments. They chose to move. So everybody else was declassified and denationalized. So how did it work? And what is a slave? Somebody that put you to work. Anybody that get up and punch a clock, are they still a slave? You still work for somebody else. Any team leader, supervisor, manager, that's a fucking team leader, or anybody. It doesn't matter. Anybody in position at you that is governing the way you get your check means that you're a slave too, essentially, unless you work on your own account. That's how I used to be recorded everywhere else. So we'll never know until we get to the bottom of it. Hmm? And those are the people you jerk around, right? Not you per se, but that's the people that didn't understand they was getting taken advantage of. Some people were scared and some was clapping back. You always see that they had to attack the males first because, especially if they held any land, they had to attack the males so they could overtake the females and start taking. They didn't just do it, it was gradual. Sometimes it was 5 acres here, 10 acres there. It wasn't just all take everything. Huh? What they do, bankrupt them, and then you see what? Now you see they status change, right? They went from white to free other people, right? In the 1800, 1810, and 1820, right? Because they would only put white and slaves. So there was really no way to answer. So, you seen your grandfather over there, chances are he's probably in the war, right? Because there was a series of them going on. All these different skirmishes all over the place, and they just maintaining all the, where they get the manpower from. Now, what's the estimated number of colonizers based off of the people that they saying was here during these time frames? Who's doing that math and breaking it down? Because it needs to make sense to me. So you got to know that some of this shit can't be true, especially for places like North Carolina. It's people that was just, they wasn't backing down. And politically, they had a lot of things going on, and they was able to vote up until 1830, as long as they met the criterions, right? Some cases it was literacy. Some cases it was if you own 50 acres or more. They had that. They had it at the time. So now, what do you do with that information? Do people still walk away with the same impression like, oh, a slave, a slave, a slave? Nigga, your family was on in the same house with a name. When they was property, they didn't. Sometimes, even if something happened to them, you'll still see, John Smith. Oh, he got a last name already. You think he got another owner? No, he was a part of something else before he got in debt and had to pay that lump. Got to be sure. Got to know what happened. Maybe somebody stole a motherfucking hog. Hmm? A horse? Who knows? Who knows? We drop this right here. What up, X? Let me drop this link right here. That link is very healthy. That's a healthy link right there. Y'all hold on to that. It's going to take y'all a while. It's about to be wintertime in some of these places, I got to go get me a whole bunch of, about at least 2, 3 more coats and some new long johns because I ain't really used to this shit, but I got a lot of work to do out here on the East Coast. Halito, dog. So that link that I just dropped in the chat, that's a real healthy link. It's going to keep y'all busy for a while. So a lot of things. It's called Race and Slavery Petitions Project. Shout out to them. They put this really nice, very informative, very, very informative site together. Very easy to navigate through. It's user friendly. They have glossaries and stuff like that. And actually I'm still going through it. It's like so much stuff in there, but there's lots of petitions for different things. And you want to look at those petitions. You want to look at the courthouse records because sometimes they had to have people vouch for them, right? You have to have people vouch for them, and that's like the power of 3. You always need at least 2 people to witness. The same amount as it takes for a motherfucking conspiracy should be the same amount it takes to make sure your ass is telling the truth or you have witnesses, right? That's favorable. Yeah, I know who that is. That's Rita's son, right? That's John's daughter. Oh, I know who that is. Ain't that Loretta's kids? Right? Supposed to be able to vouch for each other. Gotta be able to trust your feathers so we can do business with each other. Supposed to be able to do shit like that, like give references and stuff like that wherever it's needed, like certain little things. But you got to be the right type of person, right? Got to be the right type of person, because and then these books that you want to hold on to, it tells you how people ended up messed up. They put in all their love and trust in their homeboy, and their homeboy did a Bishop did, like Bishop did to Raheem, right? Straight up Bishop syndrome. Okay? And a lot of things happen. A lot of things change. You think that, let me just tell you, snitches didn't always get a chance to get stitches, because they had heavy protection, right, from the oppressors during those times. But you best believe a lot of them was in prison. It was important to make sure that they got a felony. That didn't just start occurring with the 13th Amendment and all of that. We're talking about in 1776. The United States Constitution, unless convicted of a felony. Did it ever dawn on anybody that sometimes these people had a felony, whether they was guilty or not? Whether they were guilty or not. And it's up to people to understand what happened. So, and especially like in certain places, there was laws like you come after that. Stand your ground worked everywhere. But you know who always had a hard time proving that stand your ground? Because don't nobody want to say nothing for the right reasons, right? It's crazy. Whole bunch of niggas talk about, yeah, I know who did it. I know who did it. But are they really holding the dude down and be like, he didn't do it? He ain't do nothing. I know he didn't. Nobody did that. Nobody thinks of that, right? Right? And some people just take the easy motherfucking way out. Sometimes they just take the easy way out. If that's the easy way. I don't know. That's some coward shit. I wasn't raised that way. We ain't do that. Right? My cousins be like, tattletale. Nobody wanted to be a tattletale. Motherfucker could bust their head and be bleeding. Grandma like, what happened? Nothing. From about 5 voices, right? Nothing. What's that noise? I don't know, y'all. I do know one thing. Gotta penetrate that. Gotta penetrate that. Start putting it down. Gotta start putting it down. Make sure they know who you be. Don't let them speculate. Don't let them speculate. See what happens to people that, take no interest in what it is exactly that they speculate. You know what I'm saying? Oh, word. How would you know, Jesus Price? How would you know? How would you know? Where your folks from? Got the little trolleys in the room. Remedy now, Halito. Halito. Y'all in here mad, y'all little trolleys. Huh? Hi, trolleys. Take these notes. Get this work. You're going to stick around. You're going to stick around. So, this project right here, I don't know how long it took. But, definitely going to enjoy it. It'll keep you busy for a while. It's University of North Carolina at Greensboro. .edu. So hold on to that. They really did an outstanding job with that. I'm about to drop y'all another link. It's gonna be a suggestion. This is a suggestion. Let's see. No, not that one. Not that one. I want y'all to get this book right here. Let me get rid of this right here. This right here. This is ether to them Native Americans from the West that be popping all that junk. This is ether, kryptonite. Kryptonite right there. Dang, it's too big. It's not even gonna let me do it. Okay, so let me see how I could. Let me see. Okay. This is what y'all need to. I don't think it's gonna let me do it. Dang. Let me give y'all the title. So the author, her name is Tatiana Saijas, Seijas. And this is from Cambridge Latin American Studies. Asian slaves in colonial Mexico. Okay? And you get back to those Manila galleons, and those were the slave ships. And it also points out the laws that they made in Mexico that made the Asians, the Chicanos, right? That made them on the same status as Indians as long as they were vassals to the Spanish throne. Vassals to the Spanish throne. Some of y'all, when y'all get down to the 1400s, you're going to see what colonizers mixed in. You're going to see that. Got to have a stomach for that. Got to have a stomach for that. Whatever reason, you know, Powhatan and Kokoreski and everybody was dealing with them. They was doing businesses, right? This is what was happening. They had to do certain things to usurp the land. They had to do what they had to do to usurp the land. And a lot of us allowed it. And the main thing to do was to use the pen. Because we was all scrapping and getting it in the whole time. The whole time. Scrapping and getting it in the whole time. You don't know what your folks was doing. It's not best to accept any of these narratives that you can't prove. I don't care what they talking about. Don't talk about that DNA shit if you can't point out where the American prototype is. You cannot tell me that this was just a barren land and nobody lived here until they came where it was ice cold at, from where it was ice cold to come over here and be the farmers and all this other stuff. It's not in them. It's not in them to be great farmers. It's not in them to be great farmers. You can't do it. What they was growing in Siberia. How come they don't have any of those fruits, any of those foods? Where's that been studied? Can somebody show me that? There's some of the critical questions that, you need to be asking these people, especially to not only strengthen your debate, but to provoke exactly what needs to be put out there before, they think that they're correct in some of the shit that they're talking about. Y'all don't even bother me. They in here. Peace from Redbird. Halito. Halito. So, they didn't have none of these. You wasn't growing no corn. You know what I'm saying? You might have had some elk and some deer and some moose and shit like that. Maybe yaks or some shit. That might have been more of That's Siberian speed, considering the extreme temperatures and stuff like that. But you can't explain to me that no sun did that. Now uh, there has been colonizers and their descendants in Australia for hundreds of years, centuries also, right? Now, if they don't look like us by now, they never did. They're not the natural people to those lands over there, right? So they still haven't completely been absorbed by the sun. In 400 years, there's absolutely no change. A lot of them don't even really tan. Like, seriously. But there's been nothing. So you can't really come with that and say that all this nonsense and shit just changed and you don't know what part of that change is, right? If you don't know what your folks was doing, you probably shouldn't, you know, talk too much. And definitely don't let nobody speculate. You don't want to leave no room for speculation because that's all they could do is be mad, right? Especially for the people that are having a hard time with the information, those critical questions, they are always going to be an issue with them answering those critical questions. And the reason being, because they don't know. They are so institutionalized that they have it, feel like they have it all laid out and presented for them with all of this stuff that they retain, like fucking robots and shit like that, right? And at the end of the day, you can't show the other side participating in this shit. Show me where the other people that are taking these tests, that where they're comparing these samples to, have actually knowingly given up their DNA to make some sort of comparison for something that they're familiar with, one, and two, that could be accurate and end up solving someone's issue politically, right? And by blood. So certainly they would be able to go back home and they should be able to have free college and a whole bunch of other things, right? Especially if that's what they can prove, that that's where they belong, because they too need to be able to prove that they belong to someone over there. That's their problem. And I'm pretty sure, like me, everybody else wishes them the absolute best in doing so. They have that right. you know Freedom is for everybody. They just got to be in their perspective place, around their perspective folks. So and that's what it is. Asian slaves in colonial Mexico, from Chinos to Indians. Y'all need to grab that book. Tatiana, Seijas. Seijas. Y'all need to cop that book. Trans-Pacific slave trade. Look it up. Don't forget the sub-Saharan slave trade. Don't let them absorb it and have two conversations while they're sitting there trying to beat you in the head with the transatlantic. Like that didn't go down. So they should still have a good record as to what's happening. Shit is still happening in Libya, in North Africa, right? Still happening. Still happening right now in 2018. Whole life slavery. Still the same thing that's going on in the sub-Saharan. And that's a big reason. And, something that they don't talk about. Something that they no longer talk about, and they try to absorb it. But that's why it's important for you to get at them grown folks, them grand folks, right? It's important that you get at them so, you don't have no issues. I'm going to try and do this. Dang. I'm going to try and do this in 2 parts. Sheesh. But, no, it's not going to work. Y'all really need this. I want to show y'all the picture. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I wasn't lucky enough to do the screen share. So, that didn't happen. So I dropped the coroner's report. Let me give y'all this right here. Y'all definitely want to. This is through the National Archives. So if you feel more comfortable, you don't got to take my word for it. Okay? You don't have to. You can see for yourself. I'm just going to drop the straight link right there. You definitely want to go to Family Search. Okay? Yeah, you definitely want to go there, the family search. And, if you feel more comfortable for the non-sayer, the naysayers, then you can go here to the National Archives. And the National Archives is going to send you to the site, the first one that I sent, which is familysearch.org. They have books on everybody and their mother. Literally. So, don't believe that other shit. They're lying. They are not telling the truth. Let me see something. I wonder. I don't think I could do that. I tried that earlier. It didn't work. Definitely do your homework on the Trans-Pacific. Okay. DNA is a damn scam. And they get to keep doing other things. Now, you see how many of those pilgrims was mad because they changed all their stats. So now they thought that they was 8% this and 50% Italian, 52% the good part, right? 52% Italian and 30% Greek and 10% Spanish, right? And 10% that. So now, their percentages change and they're pissed the fuck off. They're pissed off. They're pissed off. As they should be, right? At least in their mind. Let's see. Entertainment purposes only. So if they can provide the cross database, you know, I would appreciate that. It should be a cross database that is very clear, that you have all these consenting people. And I also think this is a good idea. Let me send y'all these too. Hold on. This is a little. Hold on 1 second. You see they recycling the pictures and stuff like that. You got to protect and preserve any pictures that you have of your elders or your families. It's so important because they have a picture of Billie Holiday, and that's like absolutely not her. It's absolutely not her. And it's corny that they're doing that already. It's not her as a child. I think that I'm on the wrong account. Let's see. You definitely want to deal with that. Now, a lot of y'all have a problem with ancestry.com. You have to use it for what it's used for. It's always best to, again, deal with the other books that are specifically regarding those places. If it tells you that this is about Nutbush, Tennessee, chances are your folks been from Nutbush, Tennessee. That's exactly where they're going to be listed. Whether they're listed among the free people of color or the oppressed people that was not having a good time at their job. See, now you can just quit your job and nothing's going to happen. You won't get any unemployment insurance or anything like that. So, that's just the end of that. But before, when you quit your job, you were considered a runaway slave. You were a runaway slave before when you quit your job. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. So look at the General Assembly. Let me try and find one. Okay. There we go. Now this right here This is the Library of Congress. And this is going to be District of Columbia slave codes. So you want to see what was going on. And this is how you start putting two and two together. In addition to the things you know about your folks. Well, what was they doing? Certain places was very meticulous with the records, and they documented what their jobs were, where they worked at, who they worked for, what company, what mine, what industry they were in. Tennessee. Tennessee is really um, Tennessee is very interesting. I'm telling y'all, a lot of folks pass through Tennessee. We just never paid it any attention. And, we kind of just been looking in specific places. But there was a big New Jersey to Tennessee migration in the mid 1830s. Um, Lots and lots of people from different states. So even though in, I think, 1817 it may have been abolished in New York, but certainly in New Jersey, I'm pretty sure it was like the 1880s before New Jersey actually, like, was done with their institution, or what they call slavery. So definitely, let me get there's one more little obscure book that I thought was really interesting. Let me see. Hmm. Okay. One second. Yo, let me tell y'all what else. Now, this right here, this is something that out there is really different, but you know what? Totally applicable to a lot of us. You can check the applications for the Sons of the American Revolution and Daughters of the American Revolution, and you can also have details of who you're related to. They list all of the descendants. At that time in the early 1900s, a lot of people were still living. There were some folks that was living to 120, 130. You got to see it. It's incredible. Lots of people were living a long time, very, very long life, especially in the South. They were really living. Longevity really went a long way down South. Um, let me see. You want to check. Let me give y'all this little caveat on Virginia. I'm going to go here. Try and get the primary sources. Now, let's see. I'm looking for it from let's see. I'm looking to see if it's available on archives.com. So you can have the whole entire plethora of references to Virginia. Magazine and history biographies and biography, and they have like different volumes from 1 to 38, from 1893 to 1930. William and Mary College Quarterly Magazine First Series, volumes 1 through 27, and those ran from 1892 to 1919. Virginia Historical Register and Literary Advisors that ran from 1848 to 1853. Look in different towns. Now, there's also going to be some information about sources and places where they have fires. Um, Lots of fires, especially in Alabama. Especially in Alabama. Some serious fires. Let me see. Regards to the churches, I want y'all to see. Also, look for Bible records. Look for Bible records. Um, the newspaper archives, sometimes you have to go to the library and you have to see if they have certain films. If not, you want to find a library that does. See if you can have like a family link center. You have to make an appointment. And when you do, you're able to access a lot of archives. So if you can't get to where your ancestors were, you can bring them to you. You'll be able to view the film. It's not as easy. It's not always as easy and put together and or catalog the way that you might be familiar with, but everything's going to be there. There's so many things that you have to go through, and it's written in old cursive. And because it's old cursive, it looks, a lot of you have to maybe sometimes use a magnifying glass or, make sure you have a good zoom or way to view them. You'll see how they wrote all over people's shit. Um, Not your ancestors, but whoever was controlling these documents. Strikeouts and all types of weirdo stuff. So, oh, I'm gonna drop this in. Hold on 1 second. Now y'all know that there was states, let me see, that are no longer states and they became counties. All the Washington counties. Constitution. Oh shit, this can't hurt either. Should be important that y'all have this. Here we go. I don't know. There's no way you shouldn't have it, but just in case you forgot, there go a reminder. Check out that U.S. Constitution. That's something you definitely want to have. A little miscellaneous stuff. Let me give you a second here. National Archives. Research our records. Hold on. Hold on. Y'all definitely want to get familiar with the National Archives. I just sent y'all a Library of Congress link. West Virginia was also a part of Virginia. So in terms of colonial, you have to pretty much know the towns, the old villages. You'll see different names, and you need to know what they're currently doing business as right now, right? A lot of them still have the same names. Maybe they're a lot more anglicized, but, you know. Okay. Kentucky. Kentucky has a lot of information too. And you might want to pay attention to that Constitution. They have a wonderful Constitution in Kentucky. They are very, I don't want to say liberal, so not the word, but they shouldn't be stressed out if you read that Kentucky Constitution. They shouldn't be too stressed out. Life, liberty at any cost is sacred to them, and they are interested in knowing some of these things. I'm gonna have to call y'all back. What's important? Chiquisa Chique.